Hit the lights!
You've discovered the Halfwatt podcast. We want to educate and entertain by tapping into the most trusted source of new technology, the ones installing and innovating it. You, the tradespeople that build from the ground up. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, veteran contractors, and even some young blood.
There's more job satisfaction when I get done doing stuff like that or programming and seeing if it works. Than which is bizarre because I did like managing, I did like leading, and I did like, trying to cookie cutter people to see if I could, get them to think the way that the company wanted to. But I think in the twilight of my career, to just sit down and noodle a problem, fix it, and implement it and see it come into fruition and go, that's the way it should have been. That's the way it should be.
Oh, yeah.
Is like,
oh, I totally get that.
And then you only have 14,310 more to go. But you knocked that one off. And so that's been kind of my shtick.
Yeah.
It's been, we did a really cool modification to one of our buildings where we moved data internally on our network. And we changed the way it moved the data and what it said. And it was like, we got done with it. Was so, I'm teaching my apprentice to try to do it turnkey. So we get all the programming knocked out. And then we both of us go in there and just pound all the wiring together and all the boxes and put all the stuff up and then sit back and the panel goes green. You're like, then we test it. Then we test it 7 ways a Sunday. And when we're all done, we're like, we get the broom. Yeah. That's it. We're like, yay! Come back in celebration and then, spend the rest of the afternoon kind of documenting it, moving on with our lives. And the feeling is just like euphoric when we get done. Because it's something that, should have been done 30 years ago. Yeah. And now you have the power to make it change. And it's like, that's what I wish I could have done for every time I went to a client's location and looked at a panel and went, well, I think a monkey threw spaghetti up and it stuck because it doesn't look good. Oh, yeah. If I could just take an hour of time and just try to clarify a couple of these circuits, I would really like that if I could.
It's always the most frustrating at a job when I know the person that was the one that did it. Ooh. And it's always someone that's been doing it for a while, at least a couple of years, where I'm like, come on. You learned better than this. You taught me better than this. It's just why.
I get it.
Or I'll come in afterwards and be like, why are there so many things I need to fix now? Right. Like, I'm going to fix them, but why are there so many things I need to fix? But it's nice at the end when it's done and it all works and it's all fantastic, 100%. But in the moment for me, I'm like, come on, man. Why are you making me do this?
When I first got to the Hill, the system was in its transitionary phase from one type of panel to another. And I certainly didn't understand the nuts and bolts of how it all pieced together. That was my boss's job. He was really good at it. And but figuring out the wiring, I could take a crack at. And I remember opening up boxes and my partner at the time going, you didn't open up that box, did you? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, yeah, we don't open that box. Yeah. And he was right. I mean, it just was like, oh my God, this cannot be real. You cannot possibly this can't be real. And it just shows that over the years, everybody's technique and style was different. And this is what they did. So they implemented these changes in these standards. And then one of the companies that wound up working with us, that partnered up there with us, is Dyna. And the Dyna electricians, who some of them were journeymen when I knew them, some of them were apprentices, are now journeymen and guys who run the show up there. So it's the people who were either just turning out or had just turned out or were still apprentices when I was there before are now the bosses to some degree. And I ran into one when I first came back and he goes, come on, let me show you this. And he opens up this panel and it's just like, oh, I mean, the job they did in the South Hospital from what it was when I had worked on it to what it is now is not even it's not even in the same league. Matter of fact, I went to troubleshoot a problem. We had a doors that wouldn't hold on one floor. And I went to troubleshoot it, and as I went to go at it, it's like I hadn't troubleshot in so long in that floor, and it was all brand new stuff. So I thought, where am I going to go? So I call up Diane, and they go, hey, I said, I got to troubleshoot on 8. The door holder's not circuit. He goes, oh, remember that power supply? I'll have Gary meet you. Okay. So their main guy who does the work shows up, and we troubleshot it and fixed the problem in, I'd say, less than 50 seconds. I was just like, as I walked in the room, I realized, oh yeah, this is all changed, and oh, here's the as-built. I should have remembered that. All those things I hadn't thought of. And these guys had put it all together and troubleshot it and made sure it was all dialed in the way that the specs were written, and we walked around and found the problem and covered it. And so it was so fast, I felt guilty because it was like, oh, that was almost too easy. Yeah. And Gary's like laughing. And we fixed it and figured out what the issue was and moved on with our lives. But not every building's that way. Just some of the ones that we've been able to do. But everywhere these guys touch, they have like a Midas touch. They just turn stuff to gold. I was just, they're working on another one of our buildings that was another hard one to work in, and I can already see it just coming together, and it's just like there won't be any work when they're all done. They'll have dialed it all in to the point that anybody could come in and work on this. And not anybody but it wouldn't take much.
Those are fantastic, though.
Yeah.
When you get called in for a service call and you're like, oh, okay, this is super clean, super put together. Oh, there's a document box.
There's a document right there.
Everything's right there. Fantastic. Love it.
Yeah. It makes life easy.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's almost it's so easy, in fact, that when you step back and look at the other ways of doing it, you think, well, I sharpened all my skills on these terribly installed and terribly maintained systems. What happens when they all look like this? Well, it's not ever going to go to some drone, so I guess you're going to always have. I could have just imagined them making some sort of automated drone system thing to troubleshoot. I just think that would be so hilarious to watch.
That's one thing that I'm like, man, I think I chose the right thing to do. We're never going to get replaced.
No, they're going to replace pilots, fighter pilots, before they replace you.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a
and
super
tank
secure
drivers,
job.
That's not a good job.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Driving a tank, you can have that.
Yeah.
No.
That's the number of people that I've tried to get into the field. I'm just like, hey, man, you're going to start out making less than you are now, but you hate your job, and this is something that's going to be steady. I mean, it's pandemic proof.
Yeah.
I worked through the entire pandemic.
I did too.
Some people were given a choice, and they decided to step out. I'm like, no, I need work. I need to keep myself busy. I need to keep bills paid. I'm going to keep working. And like one of my buddies worked for Subaru for one of their parts warehouses and everything. And they were like, hey, we'll give people leave if they want to, but if you choose to work, we're going to pay you overtime as your regular pay.
Nice.
And if you work overtime, we're going to pay you double.
Nice.
So he was like, done and done.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep working.
Yeah.
Eventually,
you got to move these roofs.
Yeah, right? So, like, people were given choices during all of it. Some job sites got rough to work around where they're like, hey, this staircase is up only, this staircase is down only.
I remember stuff like that.
Yeah. You have to, there was one that they're like, you have to wear gloves at all times to prevent transmission. I'm like, the gloves are cloth. Like,
well, I went to the airport when I was working with a tech that I dearly love. This guy's name's Jim. And he was one of the first techs that we sent out to the airport to help handle the EST when we took it out over there. And I went there one time and there was just like nobody there. Like the whole place was like, it was the middle of the day. I mean, it was, I remember walking to meet Jim, and Jim Bramlage is his name. And the like the walkways on the bottom, You know, when you go from like the parking garage into the terminal, it was like I'm halfway down and I'm looking behind me. I'm looking, there's not a soul in the place. Not one.
Yeah.
I was like, that's awkward. Right? It feels dystopian to go into a place when you're normally just packed full of people and see nobody. It was truly dystopian.
I was working a lot downtown or the surrounding areas of downtown Portland during the pandemic and everything. I was like, there's parking.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that too.
There's nobody here.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. Let's do this sort of thing.
And no one cared if you parked in this area, this loading zone for more than 20. And no one gave a rip.
Yeah. No one was delivering.
Yeah. Score.
Yeah.
Well, to me, it's the whole thing is all a learning process. And now that we're back to full strength, the parking sucks.
Oh yeah.
Driving sucks again. Welcome back.
Mondays and Fridays coming back from Vancouver
is the worst.
Those are the days where traffic hits just after the bridge. And it's
the worst.
More days than not, I end up taking Airport Way.
Really?
Yeah.
Just quick and go all the way out and drop down.
Yeah, I'll go all the way up through Fairview.
Yeah.
And then hit Highway 26 from there.
That makes sense.
Just
instead of trying to stay on 205 or yeah.
Yeah, no. It just that one section right as I come over the crest of the bridge and you can see everyone trying to get on to 205 and where it just splits. I'm like, no.
I'm not trying to beat up on Oregonians, but there was a civil design component class that several generations missed. And I'm from California, decidedly. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. My fiance's from California as well.
It's different there.
She complains about Oregon drivers.
Yes, not just the drivers. The drivers I can deal with because I also lived in Florida. So, it's the design of everything. It's like when I remember when parts of San Diego freeways were 6 lanes on each side or 7 lanes on each side or 6 and 7, and I thought, wow, that's big. Like, would you ever fill this up? And of course I was a kid at the time. It wasn't until I started driving it that I found out they do. But they were built to handle the infrastructure, like they were planning for what was going to go on ahead. It's like they knew, like out here, they knew that they were going to build all these houses out in rural parts of Clackamas, but I'll be damned if we're going to make the road any bigger.
Oh yeah.
And so we're going to still have the same exact size roads we've had for 50 years, but we're going to quadruple the amount of people that live out here and then scratch our heads to figure out how we're going to get easements to get these roads wider.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, how do you define planning?
Oh, 212 needs to be wider.
There's or 217. Yeah. I mean, now that it's a little bit wider now, but I remember coming up here going, this only has 2 lanes. I wonder what it's like at.
Yeah.
I was like, and because I've worked for companies in Beaverton and and in Tigard and.
Oh yeah. Oh, the amount she gets frustrated whenever she's stuck behind a line of people because the semi's going slow, sort of thing on like 212 or 224 or something, and she's like, why don't they pull over? She's like, it's a law in California if you have more than 5 people trailing
that you have to pull over.
That they have to pull over.
Yeah, she's right.
She's like, that needs to be a thing.
Where's she from again?
Santa Maria, Orcutt area.
Okay, yeah.
So central coast.
Central. I'm not all that familiar with it, but yeah. Yeah, I'm from San Diego itself, like the North County and El Cajon and.
Yeah, she's like right smack dab in the middle between like San Francisco and LA.
Yeah, that's a good area.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Lots of farmland and lots of wineries. She was running a winery out there.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
we haven't talked nearly enough about technical stuff and electrical. That's the way this podcast go. I just kind of like, we just kind of wander, and I don't know, maybe it must be somewhat enjoyable to people, but I should probably get back on the topic with what you're doing now. You're programming, of course. You're a fire guy. I mean, and where you're probably is it going to be your goal when you get done? Is to stay in fire and work on notifier equipment? Is that what you want to do? Or?
I'd like it to be. I like trying to keep kind of well rounded.
So you do other stuff too. You do access control and
I mean, I haven't done access control in a minute.
Talk about other things besides fire before my
I've been doing a lot of data front to back recently.
Wax eloquent. I like data.
Oh yeah, I love doing data. I'm the only guy in Vancouver that loves doing data.
Really? Why do you like doing data? I like mud.
It's just to me, it's easy and it just makes sense.
All right.
Just because I've grown up with it, sort of thing. Because I got into the industry because my dad's done it my whole life.
So your dad was an electrician.
Yeah. He's a low voltage guy as well.
What? Where's he at?
He just changed companies, so he's at Berg now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, we should get him in here.
Yeah.
We should bring him in with you, and we can both talk.
I've told him about the show.
Yeah. Why
too.
not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so he's been doing this for years and years.
Oh, years and years. He was telling me that like the day I turned 18, he's like, "Do this."
He was right.
You need to do this. Oh, he was absolutely right. Yeah. But I was a stubborn kid that wanted to go out and have fun.
I get it.
And I was like, no, I see how tired you are when you come home. I don't want to be that tired.
That's because he's tired counting his money.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say. How come you're so tired, Dad? Stacking that cheddar, son.
Yeah. So he's an LEB. And he was just like, dude, go get your LEA. You can do more. You'll make more money. And I was like, sure. Nice. Finally, I was just like, I'm sick of working, all these onesie, twosie jobs that don't pay shit.
A. And you give one to your dad that says B. Like a big A and a little B.
But because of that, growing up, I was just like, I need to go buy a patch cord. He's like, I got scrap wire. Make one.
Nice.
And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And I was, 6, 7, 8 years old, making patch cords.
Nice. So you learned it right off the bat. I mean, you were.
So that's something that's just stuck in my head always, and I'm just like I like doing this because I get to just sit, I can zone out, punch stuff down, listen to a show, listen to music, and just go.
And there's an art to finishing cabling and data cabling. There's an art to it, and I didn't think about it because when I do some terminations and stuff, it's not as clean as I'd like it to be. When I get done, I'm like, I didn't bend it the way I should, and I want to get, you have to be an installer, like a good installer, and do a lot of panels to really get good at bending it and making sure that's going to, you know how it's going to end up, right? And I've worked with guys who, they know how it's going to end up. They've done it enough. And I look at their work and I go, wow, mine's functional and easy to figure out, but it's not beautiful. It's just functional.
I was even surprised, like, I want to say it was like last summer or last fall, something like that. I get a call. I'm helping, rough in at this other building, or I think we were trimming out at this building. Just down the road, there was another guy that was like, hey, coax? I was like, yeah. He's like, you want to come help me here? I got a couple apprentices here. I need you to teach them. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, do they have the stuff for it? He's like, no.
Oh, wow.
I was like, do you have the stuff for it to loan them? He's like, no.
Did you go off the ham radio outlet to get what you needed?
I was like, all right, I'll let my journeyman that I'm working with know. Tell him you need help. You're just a couple of blocks away.
So is this for radios or what was it for?
No, it was just the coax in the walls of these apartments.
And for Cat TV.
Yeah.
Oh, so 75 ohm coax.
Yeah.
Well, you still need terminals and all that.
Which they had the parts for it. They just didn't have the tools.
They didn't have that hex.
They didn't have the stripper or the compressor for it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is how you do it. I want you all to show me each and every one. Nice. I want you to do it. I'll check it. Sometimes they're a little tough to get the end on there at first before you crimp it. But just keep trying.
Nice.
Sort of thing. Loaned them my tools and everything. I was like, man, why don't you do this, man?
That's a great story.
Yeah.
We should have led with that. That was really good. Honestly. Yeah. It's really good on you. Good on you for doing that.
Yeah. I even asked the guy, and he's a fantastic technician, and he's a nice at 3 and everything. And he's like, I just don't do it.
Yeah.
I haven't ever had that much exposure to it. I'm a fire guy. And that's what I've always done. I don't really do a ton of data.
That pigeonholing, like I'm pigeonholed too. Like if you ask me to come up and start laying data cable, I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
But to put together the jacks, put together an RJ45, or I could do it. We'd have to show me.
Yeah.
To make sure I'm not getting the twists all out of whack and stuff.
Right.
But, it's just, when I see it done right, especially data and telecom, like the data and telecom people, like, when you've run into
I've never done any telecom. I've never done the boards or anything.
You've never done the push down blocks? I've had guys who are masters at that as well.
I think when I first started, I helped troubleshoot one.
Mm-hmm. So you're basically talking the 5 or 6E back to a network server room or some sort of.
I remember it was like this purple and black wire that went to it.
Wow.
And I was like, I had no idea.
Huh.
No idea what's going on here. But yeah, that was one time I ever helped with one of those.
No kidding.
That's it.
I've seen, like, when I was working at Facebook, at doing their fire stuff, there's a couple of firms that handle their data connections. Mm-hmm. And the standard that Facebook set for their data, the way that they terminate into there's these kind of a chevron shaped rack. It's a rack that's got you're going to put Cat 6 in this case on one side, and then you have these jacks on the other. Mm-hmm. And so when these guys are doing their drops in there, you would walk by rack after rack after rack, and it looks like somebody modeled it. It looks like they like, you're thinking, no human did this. Some freaking robot did this.
Yeah.
Until I saw the crew that did it. Mm-hmm. And they sat there all day trimming, and this is cable that they have pulled from who knows where.
Oh yeah.
Because when you're in one of those server rooms, they comb every single 6E that runs. They comb it, and then they bundle it with Velcro. Mm-hmm. And it is laying perfectly in an area on the tray, perfectly Velcroed, and perfectly aligned. I mean, if you're looking at the one on the bottom, left next to where the thing is on the Velcro, it'll be the same way all the way down, 400 feet away. I've never seen anything like it. And when those bundles make a left or right or whatever and go into the data racks, they are perfect. And so they drop all this cable down, and it's all one huge long length. Mm-hmm. Then this crew begins to figure out the lengths and to cut and trim each one, put a 45 on it, and plug it in. Okay. And they have to, if certain ones have to have some extra length, I guess, because they may make some changes to it. I don't know how the hell it all works, but I watched one guy in particular as I was working in that data center. They moved at a pretty good clip, but it wasn't lightning fast. It wasn't like you're terminating a fire panel, which we need to get this thing done by 3. Get busy, that kind of thing. Unless it's a big panel.
Still think my quote unquote favorite data that I did, I didn't punch it down, but it was like 300 and something in this medical office. Okay. Or it was a lab for a medical office. 300 and something data cables, every one of them, labeled and everything. We knew exactly where it was going, sort of thing. And then when it got to the head end, and for us to put it all together, they went shotgun it.
Really?
That way, if one panel goes out, it doesn't knock out an entire section.
So describe shotgun.
So the way, at least I've been taught to label things, is, you have 2 to 3 numbers on the cable. So it'll be like, if there's one room where the rack is in the whole place, it'll be just a 2-number scheme. Okay. So it'll be the panel and the port. Okay. So like 1-1 through 24, 1 through 48 sort of thing. And that was how this was in this building. There was just one data rack. Okay. But shotgunning is kind of disregarding that, that 1 through 1 and 48 is put wherever on any of the patch panels.
Wherever you want.
Wherever you want. You want to spread it out like the blast from a shotgun.
Oh, so that you can remix them any way you need.
Yeah. So that single wire is going there. Right. Well, like we still make it look pretty because it's all going on the back end. But that way, if one patch panel goes out, that 1 through 48 that are in this corner of the building, it doesn't affect all 48 of those.
So you're mixing it intentionally so that if you do lose one entire block of cables, then you're not affecting one area of the building. You're affecting one jack in every 7 jacks.
Yeah.
I never would have thought. I never, ever knew that. That's something I learned tonight. I had no idea that they did that.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I never thought of it. Now it makes sense. Now I understand that.
It makes total sense, and I totally get why they did it.
Okay. I'm letting it all sink in. Because what I thought it meant was something entirely different, which was you got a gun and it was like shot shells. No, that it just came out and went everywhere, but then just drooped down and went back in with the same nomenclature,
right?
Or the same sequence,
which would have been fantastic.
I call that droopy.
Yeah, it would have been fantastic if they would have said it at the beginning.
Yeah, that would make.
But we had everything labeled, and we were about to punch it all down to the rack, so we had to spread it all out and then go to each port in the building in these 300 and some odd data locations and data plates in this building and tone them to be like it's right here on the panel.
No.
Yeah, it was a couple of days of just toning.
Wow.
We simultaneously toned and tested it. So one person would have the generator in one hand and a tester in the other and go click. All right, I got tone on this port. Click, plug in the tester.
And then do the certification test on it.
Yeah. And it's like...
See what your throughput is?
Yeah. It was one whole 40-hour work week of just clicking one in, unplugging it, click the other in. And then afterwards, after we're all done, my dad's like, I have Light Bright for that, which is a bunch of RJ45 jacks that have a little LED sealed inside of them. So you have enough to still grab it out of a patch panel, but you put like 100 of these lights in all the ports of a patch panel. And when you plug in the generator, it just lights up whichever specific
But he's been
was.
Doing that so long that's a tool of the trade that a B would never, an A would never.
I had never heard of something like that.
Right, yeah.
I had never heard of something like that.
Now I'm getting jealous. I don't want to do data.
And he was like, I could have loaned that to you. And I'm like, you could have told me at the beginning of the week.
That's brilliant. So I work with a bunch of ITG folks that are LEAs too. And I don't think there's too many Bs, but a lot of As in there. And I met with them. I tried to get one to come on the podcast. I'll work with her to get her on here. But yeah, a lot of those folks really have skill sets that I haven't even tapped into. And like we have never talked on this show about DAS systems, distributed antenna systems.
I've never worked. The only thing I've ever done on them is run some 18.2 to it.
No, I me either. I know what they do and I know what they are. But like my main contact at PSI that handles a lot of my radio work for me because we're putting radios in for monitoring. Is also a DAS expert now because he's gone to school on it. He understands it. And we have the system. A different system at OHSU, and it's maintained by an ITG guy who's also a ham radio guy, and we know each other that way. But I haven't really sat down and said, "Well, wait a minute, I'm gonna have you come on the show and tell us about it." Like just sitting here talking about this data thing tonight was like, "Oh crap, I just didn't think about it."
Yeah.
With that, I'm so pigeonholed. I'm so pigeonholed myself into there is fire, and then there's other.
Yeah.
And then there's fire, and then there's other.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell's going on. Like it's like I just don't. And it's my own fault. Like if I had worked for PM and pulled access control cable and saw how it was terminated and worked on door keying and worked on because those are all parts of a living. Because like what we talked earlier, the building you're working in now is a multi-level. High density housing type place, right?
Yeah. That's the majority of what I've worked on. Yeah. It's like the bread and butter of point.
So you're doing fire, access control, right? So they can open up the door remotely. Maybe gate for the car when you're going in and out the door, going to the garage, and then maybe DAS, because some of these buildings all require it now, right?
I don't know. I don't think do DAS at all.
Okay. But you do pull the backbones for them and let other people. I mean, because you're only pulling.
The only thing we do is monitor it. The points that we have to monitor on it, we work with the guys that do all of the DAS. That's it. But
you pull the cable for them, maybe pull the coax, or do they pull their own stuff?
They pull their own stuff.
So everything that you're pulling, you use. I mean, you guys terminate.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, for the most part, this building that we're doing now is, fire, data, access, and I think that's it. That's like the three main ones that we normally do.
So in a multifamily building downtown, like when you're working down, you're
CCTV as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, and that's all Ethernet based stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, PoE. So, so that's data essentially.
Yeah.
So then,
it's one big patch cable.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's the best way to think of it.
But everybody in these multi-unit housings like that, they're not using Wi-Fi to get to the server. They're able to go to their own. Like the building itself has a server, or how does that work for them?
The way I've always, been a part of it is there's a panel in each room, like an electrical panel. That's just this white plastic panel in the room. And from there to the main IDF or data closet in the building, we run at least one coax and an RG6 coax and one Cat6 cable down to one big rack that's used by the service providers.
So I see where the cable could come from, but who handles the data? So when you move into these places, and pardon my ignorance here, but when you move into these places, they provide you with your rent also a data connection?
Yeah.
To the web?
Yeah. So you
don't have to do it on Wi-Fi and all that.
No. So the connections in there all get connected to the modem. So the service, like the tenant will, be given the contact information for a service provider. Most of the time in Washington, it's either Comcast or CenturyLink that do all of that.
So they're providing the firewalls and the security for the people as well.
You're still buying your internet from Comcast or CenturyLink like you would in your house. It's the same exact thing.
So they're metering it out that way.
But there's also 2 or 3 locations sometimes, depending on the number of bedrooms. Like if it's a 1-bedroom apartment, there's going to be a data plug in the wall of the bedroom and a data plug in the living room. Okay. So you could hardwire your game system or your computer.
Yeah, and you're getting like gigabit throughput too, right?
Or the router is in that cabinet. Once you buy, your service, they're going to provide you with the same router you would get in your house, so you can still use Wi-Fi if you choose to as well. Which is going to be your laptop, your phone. Yeah. If you choose to.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense to me. I don't know why I hadn't really thought about how it worked, because I've seen those. I've been into those multifamily dwelling places and gone and opened up a door and gone, what the hell is this? This is everybody's. And I just kind of scratched my head and says, well, is the building just got a server? Or so it's like basically a service that they buy through any other ISP, and then they, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, since I don't live in one, and I exist on Wi-Fi. Everybody in our house exists on Wi-Fi. We have one router, and it's right next to where my grandkid sleeps, so she's getting irradiated the whole night. But whatever. Yeah, but and they're fast enough now that you can run. Everybody's got a smart TV, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 smart TVs in the house. They all run simultaneously. Yeah, we're all watching that Netflix or Hulu or whatever. Yeah, to me, the way that the game is now played, where you get your TV completely streamed. I don't know anybody's watching broadcast TV anymore.
No,
I'm sure there are some. Please don't be hating on me.
Ever since I moved out from living with my folks, as soon as I started living on my own, I was just like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
I just need internet. That's it.
It's the same thing I did. So when I got rid of my phone, I had I had one of those real honest to God phones, like where you ring a ding.
Yeah.
And I was still living in Oregon City, and I just canceled it one day. I'm like, well, I have cell phones.
Yeah.
I'm always gonna have a cell phone, so I canceled the real phone, and I said, come get this crap off my house. And we got a little tizzy, so I cut the wires and wrapped it around the utility pole. It's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, I think it was probably 2008, 2009. We finally just stopped using a home phone.
I think it would have been probably before then, because because I left the Hill then. And I think I cut it probably a couple of years before that, probably 2003 or 4.
Yeah.
Right when I started having a cell phone all the time.
Yeah.
I went, this is dumb.
Yeah. I remember it being, for us, around when the iPhone started to get prevalent.
Yeah, and see, and I wasn't ever an iPhone guy until...
It was 2, maybe 3 generations.
Right.
It was still real new.
Yeah.
Real new.
First time I saw an iPhone, I went, that looks interesting.
Oh yeah.
And I was still on a Droid, and then I was like force converted.
Yeah.
Here's what you will use.
Oh, I've been on a Droid for years now.
Oh, there's a big brouhaha. I mean, there are Droid heads. Okay, there are Droid heads and there are non-Droid heads.
Oh yeah.
And I loved my Droid when I had it, but man, when I went iPhone, I just became sucked into it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm sucked into it. I wouldn't even know how to run a Droid. I don't know where the pull start is or nothing.
The last straw for an iPhone for me, I think I had, what did I have? I had the 4S.
Yeah.
Or something like that. All of them were hand-me-downs for me. Mm-hmm. All of them were hand-me-downs. I started with the first gen iPhone when the 3GS was out.
Yeah. Look at you. Big timer.
Oh, yeah.
Big timer.
I was like, ooh, I got one.
Look what I got.
It was like the 4S or the 5 or something like that I had. I go into the AT&T store with my folks. I get it. I come out and I'm checking it out in the car. We haven't even left. We're still in the parking lot. I turn it on. I'm playing with it, and that little switch on the side that switches it from sound to vibrate, I switch it to vibrate, and nothing happens. I was like, well, that's weird. I flip it back and forth a couple of times. I'm like, you guys just got new ones.
Does yours do anything?
Does yours work?
When you flip your switch?
Yep, it works. I was like, what the hell? I go in, and they're like, well, you opened it, so... nothing we can do.
So you're stuck with a phone that never rings or vibrates?
I was like, what the hell? We ended up bullying them into fixing the problem. Give me one that's not fair. Broken. You gave me a broken phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you took it out of the store. It's like, so if I would have figured out it was broken in the store, you would have fixed it without problem. But no, the final straw for me was I had, couple thousand songs on my iTunes, and when Blu-rays were coming out and there was the digital code in them that you could download it once, you get a digital copy once. They lost almost all of my movies that I had.
Oh yeah.
And almost all of my music. So all of those codes were gone. All of those Blu-rays that I owned, I couldn't watch on my Apple devices or my computer on iTunes or anything. They were just all grayed out.
Just had a connection.
So we even went into, the Apple store and talked with the people there. And I was like, we've never seen that. We don't know what that is. We can try. And they're like, yeah, we couldn't figure it out. You're screwed.
You're screwed.
I was like, cool, I'm done.
What got me, and we'll close it down here after this, but it got me was a friend of mine gave me her 5 gig Apple iPod. And I was working up on the hill, and everybody was having those different. Apple had come out with theirs, and everybody had a different one. And I had a Motorola phone because this Motorola was who was our provider, what carried our phones for us. So I wasn't either kind of Droid because it was before Droids really were the operating system, but I got this 5 gig Apple iPod, and I learned how to put the music on it like this, and I fell in love with it because it would sit in my pocket of my shirt and on my ears all the time. All my music, which was, I had CDs, stacks of CDs, all went on this little tiny iPod.
Oh yeah.
And then I upgraded to a 40. And I lost the 5. It just fell out of my pocket somewhere. Someone picked it up or something. So I bought like a 40, and I put everything I owned on it. And then I upgraded to 160, and I had everything on that. And I still have a 160. I still have a spare 160 to compensate for my old 160 in case. And I have never used it anymore because now everything's on my phone, and I just pay the money to Apple.
Yeah.
And so now I get, if I'm sitting, this is why I use it. Because eventually, once I fell in love with the iPod, I went, I have to have this. And then someone said, well, you can get all that and a phone. Yeah. And I was like, nah, maybe. I started using it, and then I just never went back. I just went, okay, I can get used to this. I like it.
Yeah.
And then now it's so a part of my life. And the music, like I can be sitting in a restaurant, and I'm sure you can do this with other apps, but I can be sitting in a restaurant going, especially like Mod Pizza, they play really good music. Click, got it,
Yeah.
And you can put it on iTunes, and since I have the full subscription, it's just mine. Like, you want that song? Sure. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Here's another one idiot you're never going to listen to again.
I tell you what,
and that opened up the freedom I had by listening to music through Apple, in my case, was just like, I am hooked. And I've been using their product ever. I cannot use their laptops. Their laptops make me, I still use a Windows laptop, but the rest of it, matter of fact, when you put me in front of an Apple laptop, it's funny.
Yeah. See, there's 2 Apple computers in our house, and then my PC.
Yeah, I'm with you. My wife uses. She's really good with it, and all of her family is really good with the Apple. And I'm like the only guy who's really. Me and my oldest stepson are both Windows heads, so we're like we can navigate our stuff around that. But I'm like, there's part of it that but the iPad, you can't get my iPad out of my cold dead hands. So it's like I'm kind of crossed over on the technology, but I'm sure if I sat down with a Droid again, another Droid, I'd go, this thing.
It's all UI.
Yeah, it is.
That's the thing.
It's all you. It's all.
People get used to one, and they're like, oh no.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that one.
I did like the flexibility where the Apple is inflexible on a lot of things, and I get that.
And I think part of why I've stuck with, Droid for so long is just that, like, ooh, I'm gonna figure out how to do something.
Right. Did you know you could?
Yeah. It's like learning new tricks on it all the time, sort of thing. And it's like, oh shoot, okay.
Well, now they issue iPhones at work, so everybody has to have one anyway.
The same with PM.
Yeah, and then because it's because of the security aspects. You can, and so they are able to monitor it like that. It's a much more robust and secure system. But when we do our fire alarm, when I'm looking at the fire alarm system, it's incredible. It's incredible to be able to pop up an iPhone, watch the fire system, 2 miles away while I'm fiddling with this here. It amazes me that I'm like, okay, there's the alarm that comes through. That's what looks like the graphic. Okay,
I think it's
on your iPhone. It's like so Dick Tracy to me that I'm like, if you would have told me in 1970, because I'm born in '64, so if you'd have told me in 1974, '78 that by the time you're going to be almost 60, you're going to have a little box that you're going to put above your head as you're working on this fire panel, and it's all the crap's happening via. It's just, I would have said, nah, never going to happen, man.
And it's ever changing still.
Ever changing, yeah.
And that's part of the intrigue of the industry too, is what we're doing is always changing.
Always changing, man.
And it's one of my big things that I want right now is like, I want to learn fiber.
I've done
fiber once.
Yeah.
I want to be the fiber guy at Vancouver.
Do it.
Like, that's what I'm pushing for. We don't do it very often, but I can be the guy for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to be the guy for something now.
I like that.
If I'm going to, be a journeyman up here, I want to be the leading guy.
And that's I'm going to own that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like guys I know who put in radios. Like, that's all they do, and they're really good at it.
Yeah.
And they're really good at it. You know? And, this guy installs this. What?
Yeah.
He's really good at that.
Yeah.
Can you do radios? Sure. Once, you know?
Yeah.
But that's just kind of, you do pigeonhole yourself, but still.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it sounds hokey to some people, but like YouTube is a godsend for that kind of stuff too. Like, I sat there with the guy that used to be one of the fiber guys. He went to high volt, but he was trying to teach me how to do fiber, and we were, running into all these troubles. And he's like, let's just watch the instructionals. Let's figure out where we're messing this up.
Let's just go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Isn't that fun? Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Man, as always, I really enjoy talking to people. This has been a real treat for me.
Oh, yeah,
but you got to bring your old man in. You got to bring your old man in.
You say you do hospitals mostly?
Well, I work at one, so that's all I do.
Have you ever done legacy?
I did. I used to inspect their systems.
You may have worked with him at one point.
Did he work at a Legacy?
He did a lot of legacy stuff back in the day.
But did he work for Legacy, or did he work with them? Because I was a contractor that worked with him.
He worked with them.
So I did the fire system. I did the fire alarm inspections at Emmanuel, Good Samaritan, Meridian Park, and Mount Hood Medical. Not Salmon Creek, because it didn't exist at the time, and Holiday Park, which is where Damage was. I worked on those 5 facilities.
I want to say he worked at every legacy.
We probably crossed paths.
Yeah, Jim Owens.
No, it doesn't ring a bell. But that doesn't mean that I don't know him.
Yeah.
Because names, I really struggle with remembering names. Mm-hmm. Faces I can remember. What people tell me, I'll remember. Mm-hmm. And it takes me a while to get the names down. It's just the way my memory works. But I'm not stupid. Well, maybe I am. Maybe I'm deeply stupid. I don't even know it. Hey, Tyler, could that be the case? Yeah, I am. I'm probably deeply stupid. We'll call it a night.
All right.
But bring him.
Yeah.
Let's have a 3-way and talk to him.
Absolutely.
I think it would be fun to talk to a guy who's done that much bee work. It would be really cool.
Yeah, he's been to some cool places. I loved hearing about it.
Well, thank you for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, my brother.
I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Half Watt Podcast. We always want to hear from you, and we encourage you to email us at halfwattpod@gmail.com with questions or even your own stories. Funny, crazy, or praiseworthy, we want to hear it all. You can follow us on Instagram at halfwattpod to stay up to date on our feed. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And share us with a friend, the best way to help us grow. The Half Watt Podcast is a production of Now Hear This Studios.